But even though it is the shortest verse in the Bible, I will stand to say today that I believe that it's one of the most powerful verses in the Bible. Why do you believe it's one of the most powerful verses? I believe it's one of the most powerful verses in Scripture because it is this verse, watch this, that shows us the deity and the makeup of Jesus. It is John 11, verse 35, and John chapter 11 that shows us and teaches us that Jesus was 100% man, but also 100% God. You already know that when you look at the life of Jesus, that he was man and God at the same time. If you heard it before, when you look at it on his man side, he's known as Mary's baby. But on his God side, he's known as God's only begotten son. On his man side, he lived to be 33 years old. But on his God side, he's from everlasting to everlasting. On his man side, he was one who needed to drink water. But on his God side, he's the same one that walked on top of the water. On his man side, he needed to eat bread. But on his God side, he's known as the bread of life. Somebody gonna help me here in a minute. On his man side, he went to sleep on a pillar in the midst of a storm. But on his God side, he looked at the storm and said, "Peace, be still." On his man side, watch this, he cried at the death of his friend Lazarus. But on his God side, he stood at Lazarus' grave and said, "Lazarus, come forth." Is there anybody in here that thank God and knowing that he was man and God at the same time? And here we are, my brothers and my sisters, in John chapter 11, that Jesus cries at the death of his friend Lazarus. You will discover in John chapter 11 that we are introduced to a man by the name of Lazarus and his two sisters by the name of Mary and Martha. And the text shows us that they was close to Jesus and Jesus was close to them. But in John 11 verse 3, this man Lazarus gets sick. And when he gets sick, the sisters get together and say something like this in verse 3. They said, "Somebody sent a word to Jesus and let him know the one whom he loved is sick." Let me say it one more time. When the brother got sick, the sisters got together and said, "Somebody sent a word to Jesus and let Jesus know the one whom he loved is sick." I got to say it one more time so y'all can get it. When the brother Lazarus got sick, the sisters got together and said, "Somebody sent a word to Jesus and let him know the one whom he loved is sick." Ain't got time to stay there. Let me break it down for you. Here it is. I don't know about you, but when I'm going through the trials of life, I want to be around somebody that know how to get a word to Jesus. And I believe I'm not the only one in here that can testify that when you're down and out, you want to be around some folk that know how to get a word to Jesus. I don't need nobody gossiping about it. I don't need nobody talking about it. I don't need nobody Facebooking it. But I need somebody when I'm going through something that know how to get a word to Jesus. I'm looking for about 25 of y'all in here that can just testify. You thank God that when you was down and out, you was around some folk that knew how to get a word to Jesus. Y'all ain't talking to me. Let me talk to you. Can somebody thank God that you had a praying mama, had a praying daddy, had a praying pastor, that when you weren't praying for yourself, somebody knew how to get a word to Jesus? In verse 3, they say, "Somebody go send a word to Jesus and let him know the one whom you love is sick." Somebody go tell Jesus, "Jesus, Lazarus is sick." Watch what Jesus says in verse number 4. Watch this. Jesus says this, "Go back. Let Mary and Martha know that whatever they're going through right now, at the end of the day, is for God to get the glory." Y'all missed the shout. In other words, verse 4 says, whatever they are going through, whatever they're facing, tell them don't worry about it. God is going to get the glory. Can I tell you why you ought to be shouting right now? Because whatever you're going through right now, it ain't got nothing to do with you. It ain't got a thing to do with you, but because you're God's child, when you come out, Not if you come out, but when you come out, God gonna get the glory. And is there anybody in here that know because you belong to God, and no matter what you go through right now, God is gonna work it out, but yet he's still gonna get the glory? Is there anybody in here that can just testify, I may be broke right now, but God's still gonna get the glory? I may have sickness in my body, but God is still gonna get the glory. I may have enemies camped all around me, but God is still gonna get the glory. Watch this. Verse 5, this is what throws you off. Verse 5 says this, and Jesus loved Lazarus, Mary, and Martha. And then verse 5 says, he stays where he is 2 more days. Y'all not getting it, are you? They told Jesus that Lazarus is sick. Verse 5 says he loved all 3 of them. But then he stays where he is 2 more days. Doesn't it seem like if he loved them, he would have went to see about them? He would have fixed things right then, but he stays where he is 2 more days. That when Jesus decides to show up, Lazarus has went from sickness to death. Jesus, when they first called you, he was alive. But when you decide to show up, he's dead. I had to ask the question. I said, Jesus, why did you wait so late before you showed up? And y'all know what he told me. He said, son, even when I'm late, I'm still on time. And is there anybody up in here that's not ashamed to testify? Even when you thought he was late, he was still on. And so Jesus shows up and he cries. He shed tears. But I want to give you a few things of why Jesus wept, why he cried. Number 1, Jesus had tears of frustration. Everybody say tears of frustration. What you mean of tears of frustration? He had tears of frustration because of the doubt in his disciples. It's already stated that Jesus was frustrated even before he got to Lazarus' grave. Why is that? Because when you get a chance, read verses 7 through 14, you will discover it is there that when Jesus tells his disciples, he say, now let's go check on Lazarus. And the disciples say something like this. They say, Jesus, are you sure you want to go back that way where Lazarus is? Because it's there they don't like you. It is there they don't care for you. They may try to kill you. And I hear Jesus saying, I'm frustrated with my disciples because what they don't understand is that when you got purpose and destiny upon your life, and when you're doing God's will, you're going to have some times where folk ain't going to like you. They going to talk about you. But Jesus says, but when you're doing your Father's business, you can't worry about what people think, what they try to do to you. And I'm looking for about 15 folk in here that has gotten to the point in your life you are delivered from people and what they think. Because when you're going to do what God called you to do, you can't be scared of. I wish I had about 20 folk in here that just got a made up mind, whether you like me or you don't like me, talk about me or don't talk about me, I'm going to do that which God called me to do. He says, I'm frustrated because they don't understand that it's not about them, but it's about my Father's business. And watch this. Jesus tells me, he says, let's go check on Lazarus. Lazarus is asleep. Watch what they say in those verses. They say, well, Lord, if he's asleep, he'll do well. In other words, let's leave him alone. Jesus says they still ain't getting it. What frustrates me, see, in the natural, watch this, he was dead. But Jesus don't say he's dead, he's asleep. Here's the shouting point. There's a difference between dead and sleep. Dead represents done and over. Sleep represents it's just temporarily. And I want to tell somebody up in here, whenever Jesus is on the scene, Ain't nothing dead, it's just sleep. Y'all missed y'all shout right there. And I'm looking for somebody in here that's going through something right now. Everybody else think it's over. Everybody else think it's dead. But because you know God and who he is, you can say it's just sleep. Let me call the roll. Your finances ain't dead right now, they just sleep. The marriage ain't dead right now, it's just sleep. That unruly child, the way they act,